In this video, I will talk about a book that can change your life. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware, a former palliative care Australian nurse. She spent several years caring for patients in the last 12 weeks of their lives. She was deeply moved by the stories and wisdom of the dying people she met and noticed that they often shared similar regrets about their lives. She decided to write a blog post about the most common regrets of the dying, which went viral and reached millions of readers around the world. She realized that many people wanted to learn from her experiences and avoid having the same regrets at the end of their lives. She also felt inspired to change her own life and follow her dreams. She decided to write this book about her journey and the lessons she learned from dying. The first regret that she wrote in her book is about living a life that is true to oneself and not to what others expect of one. She saw that many people had regrets about not following their dreams and living according to their own values and passions. They had lived a life that was not authentic and satisfying to them, but rather a life that was influenced by the opinions and pressures of others. Living a life that is true to oneself means living according to one's own inner guidance and intuition. It means being who one really is and not who one thinks one should be. It means doing what one loves and not what one thinks one has to do. It means making choices that reflect one's true desires and aspirations. It means honoring one's true self and not compromising it for the sake of pleasing others or conforming to social norms. Living a life that is true to oneself requires courage. It requires courage to listen to one's own heart and soul and not to the voices of others. It requires courage to change one's life and pursue one's dreams. It requires courage to be different and unique and not to fit in. It requires courage to be happy and fulfilled and not to settle for less. Living a life that is true to oneself is the best way to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. It is the way to avoid regrets at the end of one's life. It is the way to honor one's purpose and potential. It is the way to be free and joyful. The second point that Bronnie Ware wrote in her book is about not working too hard and missing out on the joys of life. She saw that many people had regrets about working too much and neglecting their families and themselves. They had spent most of their lives working and not enjoying life. They had sacrificed their health, happiness, and relationships for work and not given enough to their loved ones and themselves. Not working too hard and enjoying life means finding a balance between work and life. It means prioritizing work and life equally and not letting one take over the other. It means working to live and not living to work. It means spending quality time with one's family and friends and not being too busy or stressed. It means taking care of one's health and well-being and not burning out or breaking down. It means having fun and pleasure and not being too serious or dull. Not working too hard and enjoying life requires courage. It requires courage to say no to work and yes to life. It requires courage to set boundaries and limits with work and not overcommit or overextend. It requires courage to value oneself and one's time and not undervalue or waste them. It requires courage to trust oneself and one's abilities and not doubt or fear them. Not working too hard and enjoying life is the best way to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. It is the way to avoid regrets at the end of one's life. It is the way to honor one's needs and wants. It is the way to be healthy and happy. The third point in her book is about having the courage to express one's feelings. She saw that many people had regrets about suppressing their feelings in order to keep peace with others and settle for a mediocre existence. They had not been honest and authentic with themselves and others. They had not said what they truly thought and felt and had hidden or held back. They had not been vulnerable and open and had been afraid or ashamed. Having the courage to express one's feelings requires courage. It requires courage to face one's fears and overcome them. It requires courage to confront others and deal with conflicts. It requires courage to accept oneself and others as they are. It requires courage to let go of what others think and expect. Having the courage to express one's feelings means being honest and authentic with oneself and others. It means saying what one truly thinks and feels and not hiding or holding back. It means being vulnerable and open and not afraid or ashamed. It means respecting and honoring one's emotions and not denying or ignoring them. Having the courage to express one's feelings is liberating and empowering. It is the way to avoid regrets at the end of one's life. It is the way to honor one's truth and voice. It is the way to be free and joyful. The fourth point that she wrote in her book is about staying in touch with one's friends. She saw that many people had regrets about not keeping in touch with their friends and letting them slip away over the years. They had not maintained their friendships and had lost contact with them. They had not given their friendships the time and effort that they deserve. Staying in touch with one's friends means maintaining and nurturing one's friendships. It means reaching out to one's friends and keeping in contact with them. It means spending quality time with one's friends and sharing one's life with them. It means supporting and caring for one's friends and being there for them. Staying in touch with one's friends requires courage. It requires courage to make time for one's friends and not be too busy or distracted. It requires courage to reconnect with one's friends and not be too distant or awkward. It requires courage to forgive and apologize to one's friends and not be too proud or stubborn. It requires courage to trust and open up to one's friends and not be too guarded or closed. Staying in touch with one's friends is rewarding and fulfilling. It is the way to avoid regrets at the end of one's life. It is the way to honor one's bonds and memories. It is the way to be loved and happy. The fifth point is about letting oneself be happier. She saw that many people had regrets about not letting themselves be happier and settling for a mediocre existence. They had not embraced happiness as a choice and as a result of circumstances. They had not done the things that made them happy and had done the things that made them unhappy. They had not been grateful and optimistic and had been bitter and pessimistic. Letting oneself be happier means choosing and creating one's happiness. It means doing the things that make one happy and not doing the things that make one unhappy. It means being grateful and optimistic and not being bitter and pessimistic. It means embracing happiness as a choice and not as a result of circumstances. Letting oneself be happier requires courage. It requires courage to change one's life and pursue one's happiness. It requires courage to say yes to happiness and no to unhappiness. It requires courage to value oneself and one's happiness and not undervalue or sacrifice them. It requires courage to trust oneself and one's happiness and not doubt or fear them. Letting oneself be happier is liberating and empowering. It is the way to avoid regrets at the end of one's life. It is the way to honor one's purpose and potential. It is the way to be free and joyful. The lesson from this whole book is that life is precious and short, and we should live it in a way that makes us happy and fulfilled. We should not let fear, regret, or others hold us back from living our true selves and pursuing our dreams. We should not work too hard and miss out on the joys of life. We should not suppress our feelings and settle for a mediocre existence. We should not lose touch with our friends and let them slip away. We should not deny ourselves happiness and settle for less. We should live a life that is true to ourselves and not to what others expect of us. We should find a balance between work and life and enjoy both. We should express our feelings and be honest and authentic with ourselves and others. We should stay in touch with our friends and nurture our friendships. We should let ourselves be happier and choose and create our happiness. We should live a life that is fulfilling and meaningful, and that we can look back on with pride and gratitude. We should live a life that we love and that loves us back. We should live a life that is free and joyful. These regrets are powerful reminders of how we should live our lives and what really matters in the end. They are also wake-up calls for us to change our lives now before it's too late. We don't want to have these regrets when we are on our deathbeds. We want to have peace of mind and satisfaction with our lives. If you like this video and want more tips and insights on how to live a fulfilling and meaningful life, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can also leave a comment below and let me know what you think of this book and how it has changed your life. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Remember, life is precious and short, so live it well and avoid regrets.